what the research into psychobiotics have discovered is that there are actually bacteria who have been researched to be able to precisely accomplish what it is you need accomplished. When we use probiotics and psychobiotics, we have an opportunity to really play with making it personal to you.
There's studies on it that it's really interesting is that probiotics and supporting your gut health can really be helpful as you're transitioning off of an SSRI. So directly speaking to that, talking about the gut connection through this process, how do you approach healing the gut in kind of parallel with healing anxiety?
I love talking about psychobiotics, and I know that you're like a gut person. So if anybody knows this term, it would be you.
Oh, yeah.
And for those who don't know what a psychobiotic is that traditionally in medicine, we know microbial diversity is the name of the game. Our gut needs diversity. We don't want all the same bugs in there. Then you get all the same of one thing. For example, some bugs help us make cortisol, stress hormone. You don't want all of your bugs to do that and nobody in there making GABA to help you feel calm and relaxed. You want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? So what we used to do in medicine is just sort of throw spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks and just say, okay, try to get something with 4 strains or more of bacteria and take a whole bunch of it. And we're just going to hope for the best. And what the research into psychobiotics have discovered is that there are actually bacteria who have been researched to be able to precisely accomplish what it is you need accomplished. So for example, if let's say you took an antidepressant and you actually felt a little bit better, you were one of those people where it helped. It may not be because you have more serotonin. It may be that that antidepressant you're taking decreases inflammation a little bit. And so if we then look at inflammation and it's like, oh, okay, my high sensitivity CRP blood test is a little high. My ESR blood test is a little bit high. My homocysteine is a little bit high. My white blood cells are a little bit high. I'm allergic to every single food I eat. I'm reactive. I get rashes. I'm puffy. You have signs of inflammation that perhaps finding psychobiotic bacteria whose job it is to bring down inflammation may actually work better at that cause than the antidepressant. But then we would ask, well, why are we inflamed? What is the source of that inflammation, right? So when we use probiotics and psychobiotics, we have an opportunity to really play with making it personal to you while we figure out, well, was it an antibiotic? Is that why your gut may be out of balance? Or have you been exposed to mold? Or were you given birth control at a young age? And
we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Yes, I love it. Yeah.
Well, it's a really good point. And what you mentioned here with psychobiotics is true of the whole probiotic category, and something that is core to our company is very relevant to what you just said. Traditionally with probiotics, they were marketed, and they still are marketed as digestive health aids, right, to help with our digestion. And then it became a quantity versus quality of the strain of bacteria. So it just became really, a lot of it was marketing, frankly, of just take, 100 billion, 50 billion, however billion CFU, very confusing. The consumer didn't know what a CFU is, which is a culinary forming unit, a way to measure a bacteria count. And the quality of the actual strain wasn't even discussed. In fact, some of the leading products, when you flip over the package, I always encourage a consumer to do this. Flip over the package and actually see, is the strain designated, right? Can you Google that strain and see if there's any research on it? That's the number one way to tell if the product's even decent. Is there any substantiation behind it? The way that we've gone about product development for our stress products, but for all of our products, right? Just for any product that we're developing, is quality of the strain versus quantity. So we have strains of bacteria for menopause that are only at 1 billion or 2 billion CFU, because guess what? That's clinically what we've shown and what is efficacious. But the quality of the strain is very high. And with psychobiotics, to your point, the quality of the strain of bacteria is really what you're going for, not necessarily the quantity. It really depends more on the quality and how it's delivered, right? Can it make it to the gut? Is it delivered in a way that is beneficial? And so I love that you brought that up, because it's very true of psychobiotics, but it's true of all probiotics. It's just true of how to pick a quality product. And so very, very good point there. There's a few other things to unpack here. And one of the things you hit on was birth control. So I want to kind of transition a little bit into the hormone side of things. Chapter 7, you talk about panic and hormones, and how panic specifically impacts our hormones. But it's very common that you've got a woman on birth control and then SSRIs, right? And birth control has become this prescription that's sort of a catch-all for so many things that are going wrong. And it's, really unfortunate in a lot of ways that has become the go-to prescription. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how specifically how SSRIs and anxiety can impact hormones, and panic can impact our hormones as women.
One of the first hormones that comes to mind is estrogen. And I feel like estrogen has gotten a really bad rap over the years. We have so many conversations about estrogen dominance. And there's a lot of really good data about metabolites of estrogen, but I don't think that we're talking about it enough. And this is where I see we can make a really big impact for men and women, especially women, but where we can make a huge impact. So there's a few things with estrogen. Another analogy is, and this is about how not all estrogen is created equal, but I want you to think of 2 kindergarten classrooms. In one kindergarten classroom, all those kindergartners, there's like 20 of them in there, they've all been given popsicles and Mountain Dew, and they're playing rock music, and the lights are flashing, and they're having a really big party, right? So you can imagine that if you walk into that room, that there may be a feeling of chaos. If you go into the neighboring classroom during nap time and the lights are low, maybe everybody's got like a warm teddy bear, there's like Beethoven playing, and the light, everything is calm. You may have the same number of estrogen kindergartners, the same age of estrogen kindergartners, but your lived experience is totally different. And when we do blood testing, your doctor, if you're lucky, will run estradiol testing, but they often don't run metabolites, which looks more at the specificity, which I think marries really well with what you were saying about the probiotics, is that there's lots of different strains of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. And just like that, there's lots of different types of estrogen, namely estrogen 1, estrogen 2, and estrogen 3, estrone, estradiol, but they can get broken down even further. And so there's a test, it's called the Dutch test, that I like to run with my patients who have this lived experience of, I'm having anxiety and panic and insomnia, and it is occurring regularly in my maybe follicular phase, the first 14 days of your cycle, or it always occurs when I ovulate, or it always happens during my luteal phase before I have my period and I'm PMSing, or my anxiety all started when I got pregnant, or during puberty, or during perimenopause. Whatever your age is maybe your lived experience is that it's hormone related. It looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's got to be a duck. But you go to the doctor and they're like, your estradiol's fine. So what I have found is that there may be 2 main causes of this. The first is that your body is breaking down your estradiol into a submetabolite that is more either pro-inflammatory, or it can create a estrogen form that can cause DNA damage. And estrogen also interferes with serotonin metabolism, which then interferes with cortisol, which interferes with testosterone, which interferes with insulin, and oh my gosh, the whole thing, right? The second thing that could be happening is, let's say that you had a really good doctor and they ran your estradiol and they ran your metabolites, and let's say that all your kindergarten classrooms, they all look great, but your lived experience is still, no, I know there's something going on hormonally. Why? It's not because you're broken. It's not because your anxiety is out to get you. It's not because insomnia is your story forever. There's a reason. And one of the most common reasons that I hear about this is environmental toxicity.
Yeah.
We live in a toxic world. We live in places with car exhaust, wet buildings, mold. There's heavy metals in our cosmetics, our personal care products. There's solvents everywhere. And what's really tricky about heavy metals, as an example, is that they can look just like minerals, like magnesium or zinc, and they can jump into those pathways. And so everything looks normal, but the pathway isn't working, and you feel the symptoms, even though the numbers are normal. So I say all of that because you're asking a question that we need to ask more is why? What's going on with my hormones? If my hormones are out of balance, why are my hormones out of balance? And then what can I do about it?